I love trauma. Midsommar is a 2019 horror film from then up-and-comer Ari Aster. He made his box office debut in 2018 with Hereditary. This was my first introduction to him. That year, I had MoviePass and was seeing basically every movie that came out that year with my friend Claire. It was perfect because I was working the evening shift and we'd go and see a movie and I'd grab some food and go off to work. Seeing Hereditary is one of the most tense movie experiences I think I ever had. I'm not a huge horror guy, but if the movie is getting some buzz, I'll usually nut up and bite the bullet. And I'm glad I did. For a long time, I think it was probably my favorite horror piece of media. Now that might be Haunting of Hill House. I don't even know if this is like horror. It just has some horror elements. Has some scary stuff in it. Anyways, Hereditary is great. It's got some great performances in it. The tense moments are tense. And it's pretty fun to show your friends who haven't seen it and have them experience it for the first time with you. Similarly, that's where this movie comes into play. I saw Midsommar in the Cine Studio in Hartford, Connecticut. It's actually this really nice independent movie theater on campus at Trinity College. It was during a re-release where they were showing the director's cut. Overall, it was pretty much the best way to see this. I don't know why, but I never saw the original run. Maybe it's because I was waiting for it to hit streaming or something, but my cousin Dan asked if I was interested in seeing the re-release with him, and I went to it, and I really liked it. But I don't know if I loved it. I really liked Florence Pugh, and the overall execution of making a horror movie that takes place primarily in the daylight I thought was really well done. I'm going to go into the plot a little bit, so just an overall trigger warning for suicide and some familial trauma throughout. Now that I think about it, most of Ari Aster's movie has to deal with familial trauma. You okay, dude? Flo's character Danny got some issues with anxiety and guilt because her sister murder-suicide herself and her parents, and she's dealing with the trauma of all that. Her boyfriend Christian clearly does not know how to help her feel better, or maybe he's just tired of her not knowing how to cope with it anymore. Regardless, they're clearly not in a relationship that's functioning well, and they're not good for each other. But Danny's kind of too blind to see it, and Christian doesn't know how to break it off with a girl who's grieving her whole family, basically. Christian and his group of friends were invited for the Midsommar Festival in Sweden, and Danny kind of gets co-opted in after Christian feels guilty for not knowing what to do with her and not telling her about the trip and stuff. Her friends aren't a fan of it or her, and they definitely think that they need to break up. The whole gang gets to Sweden and tensions rise. There's some fucked up rituals that happen. Drugs are being taken and horror ensues. I won't go fully into it just in case you haven't seen it. Although the Midsommar Festival is gorgeous. The florals everywhere, the rolling green hills, and the outfits are so bright and vibrant. The movie's gorgeous to look at. As is this director's cut 4K box set, baby. I was bummed when this movie was originally released for home video because it was only just a standard Blu-ray. And I was really hoping for a 4K disc as it was a visually stunning movie. I knew something had to exist because it was available for 4K to like rent on Amazon. So I held off on getting a physical copy. Lo and behold, the movie's distributor A24 took matters into their own hands and made a 4K release all of their own. Plus it was the director's cut, which I had already seen in theaters previously. Fun fact, I have never seen the actual theatrical cut of this movie. There's some debate as to whether the theatrical cut is better or not, but in the director's cut, there's a lot more interaction between Danny and Christian that kind of shows how not good for each other they are. And to me, that's pretty much the core of the movie. I love this box and the case that it's in. It's actually not a box. It's a book. Oh, thank God, this isn't a bad one to look at. A24 does a lot of these kinds of releases for their movies now. I think Midsommar was one of their first, if not the first. Hey, look, here's the disc. And as you can see, here's Florence as the making. Minor spoiler, I guess. This booklet comes with little paintings and murals from the movie and some representations of the movie. I have to be careful what I show here because there's a lot of not safe for work stuff in here. Oh my God. A wiener. Plus, there's a foreword by Martin Scorsese. That's pretty neat. It wasn't until my rewatches where I really started to love this movie. I think you start to get the motives behind the characters and see the progression a little bit more closely, especially when the shocks of the first viewing are over and you don't have the anticipation of what's to come. It's a sleeper hit for sure. I still haven't seen Ari Aster's last movie, Beau is Afraid. I've heard that it's got some mixed reviews, but I'm sure I'll watch it at some point. I'm super happy with this set. It's a little bit on the pricier side, but I think it's worth it to get more releases like this. I also have the Talking Head set. Oh man, I left that downstairs. Sorry. I haven't seen it yet, but the presentation is great. I also have the Lady Bird screenplay book. This is probably my favorite movie ever. So I am sure we will talk about it at some point on this show. And I can't think of a witty way to end this video. So bye.